one of the objectives of the day today was to open up the doors of our labs and our research groups and see what we can offer to the community at large, and see how we can benefit and get involved with what the community are doing out there, either in entrepreneurship, in industry, in social organizations, in politics, City Hall, etc. So this is why we put together this panel of eminent people from Southwestern Ontario to learn more about the concerns and see how from now on we can interact with their organizations to really exploit the possibilities of big data in all these sectors. What we're going to do is have a very short presentation by each of them. They're going to introduce themselves, what they do, and the possibilities that they see in collaborating with Synergy at Western, the name of the potential research cluster we're working on. And then we will open up to interaction among them and especially with you, with the public. So feel free to ask immediately and to engage in the debate. Today, from my left to the far end, we have Matt Daley from London City Hall, Geoff Bellew from Communitech, Waterloo, Dominic Lam from IBM Canada, Paolatto from WorlDiscoveries here at Western in London, Michael Carter from Ryerson Media Sun in Toronto, and Glen Kearns from the London Health Sciences Centre. I wouldn't say anything else. I just pass the micro to Matt, who will start his presentation and the roundtable. And thank you all for being here.
Thanks very much, Juan Luis. How many Londoners do we have here? Okay, so we got a lot of Londoners. That's excellent. So let's go. I'm from the City of London, and let's go through a sort of a day in the life. When I first wake up in the morning, it's my alarm clock that wakes me up. Now that electricity is managed by London Hydro, which is owned by your municipal government. So then I stand up and my feet touch the ground. And before that was home, the planning department at the City of London made decisions about where that neighborhood would be. And the business development folks made decisions about building code and how that house would be built. So then I stand up and I walk to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, and I take my shower. And the water that is brought to me is, of course, brought through municipal pipes, which is managed by the City of London, your municipality. The wastewater that is taken away while I'm brushing my teeth is also, of course, managed by the City of London. I look out my window while I'm brushing my teeth, and I notice that it's rained last night. Well, all that wastewater that's disappeared has also been managed by the City of London. I walk out, I eat some food. London Economic Development Corporation, also associated with the City of London. One of their focus is agribusiness. So there's the food. I walk out, I hop in my car, I drive down the road, or I take the bus. Transportation, once again, also managed by the City of London. You guys, of course, see the point that I'm trying to make here. I won't belabor it any further. The City of London has all sorts of processes and associated policies that impact our lives every day. And within all of these policies and processes, there's data. So the City of London has a huge amount of data from disparate businesses and different services, which makes the unique opportunity for local government in big data particularly interesting. So the question is, how can the public sector leverage big data to help us learn, innovate, and analyze these things to have better decision making and better problem solving? So what would this look like? Local government examples, in this case, they often focus on efficiency and optimization. And the examples that I gave for the day in the life, of course, speak to that. These examples could include more personalized plans to support people looking and returning to work through the municipally run Ontario Works program. They could also include traffic congestion improvement through smarter cities and through smarter traffic light systems. One that I'm sure is important for everyone, particularly after this winter, is improved resource allocation associated with snow removal. And there could be modeling based on weather patterns and weather information to do that. Also, we've all interacted with government, and the opportunity for smarter and more tailored customer service experiences is always there. The major challenges that we face are, of course, historical data issues, data quality concerns, privacy and security challenges, knowledge and skills gaps, and one in particularly in this environment is a traditional emphasis put on experience-based decision making. So that's also a challenge at the local government sector. So the question is what are we doing to improve municipal management problem solving at the City of London? The City of London is working with Western University to apply big data techniques to address these elements. The pilot program for this is going to be decided very shortly in the forthcoming weeks. And with the help and support of Dr. Bauer and Dr. Suarez, the City of London, through that support, will be looking at how we can better work with and capitalize on the big data opportunity. Thank you very much.
So I'm not from London, so I'm appreciative of Matt, because everything Matt talked about is what I used today when I was here. I use the water, I use the electricity, I use the washroom, and I got to figure out how to use this thing. There we go. I'm from Waterloo, your neighbor to the south. Work for Communitech. Communitech is a regional hub for Waterloo region specifically, but we also are part of, we're the lead for the Canadian Digital Media Network, which is across Canada. Our focus and our mandate, we're primarily funded by 3 levels of government: regional, provincial, and federal. And our job is to help commercialize applications, innovations, and technology. So we are pretty agnostic as to whether they're large, small, or medium. My birth mother was actually, one of my birth mothers would have been OpenText. 17 years or so ago, there were some small little companies, OpenText, BlackBerry, Christie, Comdev, a few in the environment that said we need to figure out a way to collaborate, to ideate, and see how we can either joint venture our way to the market or share best practices. And so Communitech was formed back then by industry, and it's stayed industry friendly. So we offer a number of programs, and they're from incubating startups all the way to the maturing process. We have executives in residence. We have events that are to try to help the big fish, the Googles, the Microsofts meet with innovators and see how ideas can be fertilized or spawned. And then to say for the bigger companies in the organization, we try to help them find the next generation of technologies. A project that was funded just over a year ago was called Database, was federal development of Southern Ontario. Their focus was on creating an economic cluster around data services. And so the first implementation of that was on low Earth orbiting satellites. So as was used earlier today, the kind of Malaysian airline issue, the analogy of that is what we're funding on maritime navigation. By international law, every ship of a certain size and class has to have a transponder, which is really a collision at sea avoidance technology. So it's mandated globally. And a local company in Cambridge identified a way to capture those signals as they were arcing over the Earth's arc. And so they've kind of tricked what is a line of sight system into being a captured system. And through there, they can now capture ships wherever they are on the oceans. Why would that be appropriate? Well, for some, it might be for defense. It might be for geofencing around ecologically endangered areas. It could be for illegal fishing. It could be for optimization of routes. It could be for intermodal transit as you're going into and out of ports. So the federal government wished to encourage the acceleration of that, and so they look to us to really build out the ecosystem. So we're agnostic of data, we're agnostic of markets. What we try to do is to create an environment that brings ideas and industry together. We're looking at the next generation of that is probably going to be some sort of platform, because as was talked about earlier today, the missing link is trying to find out where the data is, who has the data, how to get access to the data, what the standards are around that data. And it's not just about data access, it's also about getting access to algorithms, predictive tools, anomaly detecting tools, visualization tools. And when you're in a startup, at early stage business, you don't have the competency or the capital or the bandwidth to do that yourself. So it frustrates the growth of businesses. And so Communitech, one of Communitech's roles, and there are sisters of ours across the country, our job is to try to help innovation get accelerated and become successful, and hopefully to be sustained in Southern Ontario in particular. We just in the last federal budget also got funded to create what's known as the Open Data Institute. So this is doing the same application as for proprietary data sets, but now on public data sets. So while first phase would be to look at regional, municipal, provincial, and federal data sets to create some sort of, let's call it a registry of some kind, a pointer system of some kind that will help you identify through metadata what the data is, how to get access to it, whether it be for research or commercialization, to help accelerate that process. So we're pretty excited to see what we can do in the world that you're doing, to see how we can help entrepreneurs innovate, either directly or by collaborating with others that are in market, where they can do licensing of technology or partnering or whatever. So thanks. Thank you.
Hello? So we're really drifting away from London to Waterloo to Toronto. I came from Toronto. But more importantly, I came from IBM. And I'm here solely because of Andrew Nelson. So I can't resist to talk about history. That's the history of IBM that's related to big data. IBM started by manufacturing and selling hardware. And the first piece of hardware is cheese cutter. Okay, and how does that relate to information or data? Is because we put mark around the chopping board, and the disc of cheese put in the middle of it. And when you cut along the axis, you can calculate based on the density how much it weight. So depending on your customer, how many ounces of cheese they wanted, you can immediately cut, so you automate the process without guessing how big this piece of cheese should be, and then wait it to confirm that that's exactly the way that the customer is asking for. So that takes a lot of time. So that's how it got started. And of course, with that, it's naturally evolved into making and selling computers. Now, when I joined IBM, we were in the sort of the peak of the mainframe glory. And since then, it's kind of dimmed a little bit over time. And I wait for about 7 years until the deep blue computers systems that beat the world chess champions. Okay, and that is a very significant point in history, because we're no longer just selling hardware. The deep blue has three major components. Number one is the fast computers. You need that. Otherwise, you know, as soon as the move has made from your competitor, the clock tick, right? Number two is you need some sort of information to reference it. So we store all the champion chess games in a database behind the machine. So that's data, informations. The third part is the intelligent software that you need to make the decisions. So that's very important. It's a huge improvement from the cheese cutter. And then fast forward to probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, yeah, we have the Watson. Now, the difference between Deep Blue and Watson is we no longer have structured data. All the data has been, knowledge of different kind and stored behind Watson, and it has to make some cognitive decisions in searching through those information in order to come up with the correct answer, right? So this is what how exciting this whole idea of analyzing data, because you no longer restrict yourself in dealing with structural data. We have heard today about multimedia information, voice, videos, and all kinds of data that you need to zip through in order to help you make decisions. So that is what sort of IBM offer to the research world. Now, one important thing that I want to point out what IBM does not do. You know the concept of wet lab and dry lab. IBM only do dry lab. We don't do wet lab. We do not have the kind of information that you guys produce, because you guys produce real-world data, and we need those to make our offering useful. And probably that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paolatto. I'm the Executive Director of WorlDiscoveries. I also run Western's research parks. We have 3 research parks, one here located in the north end, one in the south end in manufacturing, and the other one in Sarnia-Lambton. So thanks very much for having me. There's 2 reasons why I'm here. One is that Juan Luis is extremely influential and spends a great deal of time harassing me until I say yes on matters like this. So I'm happy to be here. And he's a very difficult guy to say no to. The other reason is that I actually started as a programmer, a computer programmer, and I wasn't very good at it. So when you're not very good at programming, you move into management. And what I've found is that I'm now a business development person for the university, which is what WorlDiscoveries is. Because what it's designed to do is to provide enablement for entrepreneurs, be they students or faculty, and to try and surround them with the effective tools, technologies, and resources necessary for them to be successful. We do a lot of spin-offs through the university. We do a lot of licensing through the university, manage portfolios, technologies, patents, that kind of thing. I think the reason that I'm excited about the big data side of this thing is, and I've worked a lot with Mike Bauer as well on this stuff, is that it's infinite possibilities. You're at the cusp of the next generation, the next revolution, and so, as usual, people like me who find money for people like you, we're still trying to figure it out and how we fit in, and more importantly, how we put some of that money in our own pocket. But I think the key opportunity for us, and part of the reason I think I was invited here, was because we wanted to at least introduce you to the possibility of working with an organization like WorlDiscoveries or like Research Park, and help us enable you to be successful as you enter this spectrum. So with that, I'm going to move on and hand it on so that we get to questions, and I appreciate your time this afternoon.
All right. I don't have any money for you right now, or you guys, but I'm happy to try to fund it as well. So my name is Michael Carter. I actually trained as an archaeologist, and because most archaeologists gather lots and lots of data, and then we put it in a box and we put it away for 100 years, we're trying to figure out how to access that data now. But I want to really talk to you about what I do for Ryerson. So I'm at Ryerson University. I'm the Director of Industry Relations for the Digital Media Zone. And the DMZ is an incubator and accelerator. So as you're developing your ideas, you're sitting there trying to figure out what am I going to do with this data that these guys may have or may not have, or the hardware that they may have that you can borrow. Go to IBM later on for that. I'm there to help you try to figure out how to make it into a business. You can be a social scientist, you could be an engineer, you could be a biologist. What you need, however, are the basics to get through that process of convincing other people that what you have is a great idea and that you need money for that idea. So it could be anything from understanding what lean startup methodology is, which is a process in which we can develop the idea and bring it to market, whether it's bootstrapping. So if you're going to your parents and saying, hey, can I have $100? I got to pay the programmer pizza. Or if it's going to one of these organizations and saying, can you give me $50,000 because I've got this really great idea. So the DMZ was started in 2010. We had 1,000 square feet at that particular point. It was primarily because all of the students would be going to the president of the university, Sheldon Levy, and saying, do you got money? Do you have space? Do you have connections? And Sheldon would say, maybe, maybe, maybe. Maybe we can put you guys all together and see if you can work on it together. From 2010 till now, we have 40,000 square feet. We occupy a vast amount of space at 10 Dundas Square, which is right downtown Toronto. I believe now that we've had well over 1,000 people employed by the DMZ. There's currently anywhere between 400 to 500 students, graduates, non-students incubating and accelerating their companies within the digital media zone. And we've created about 160 jobs within the university itself. So if you're interested in developing your idea and you've graduated or you're about to graduate and you're looking for a place to incubate or accelerate, come and see us at the DMZ. Thank you.
My name is Glen Kearns, and I'm the Chief Information Officer for London Health Sciences Centre and St. Joseph's Healthcare right here in London. I use some of that infrastructure that Matt talked about, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a huge problem, and IBM created my problem, because I've been working for the last 20 years to get all of my information structured so I can do decision support on it. And now, like, you threw a wrench in my bike wheel when I'm going along the road and I just flipped over, which is a great thing, Dominic. So we now are having to rethink our whole strategy about how to use information to provide people with better health care. And so I'm here because I think you've got ideas to be able to help me. We have, right here in London, one of the world's largest repositories of images, serving a population of 4 million people. They're all digital images. I can only use that information in there 1 image at a time. And yet it's a huge digital imaging database that should be able to tell me, for anybody that has pneumonia, what that pneumonia looks like, so that before the doctor even needs to talk to you, they know what your condition is, as opposed to having to interpret these images that they just took of you. And so there's massive opportunities, but we have not positioned ourselves to do that. And so one of the things we're doing in the healthcare setting, as we continue to try to get our information in an electronic state, so we're not even there yet. I'd say for London Health Sciences and St. Joseph's, by June, we'll have probably about 60% of our transactional information about patients into an electronic state. We still have about 30% of the way to go. But with that, and as I continue down that journey, I've got to figure out how I can be using big data tools to give clinicians better information. So a great example is we're looking at a pilot project with IBM on CHF readmission, congestive heart failure. A lot of people suffer from that condition. Unfortunately, 22% of people that come into hospitals in Ontario today, within 30 days, get readmitted for the same condition. It's terrible. I mean, if you went to Toyota and they told you after they serviced your car there was a 22% chance you're coming back in 30 days because it would break again, you would not be happy. And so we are working very hard to say, okay, how can we use the information that's in our system today to give clinicians tools to be able to help them to know that a patient is likely to readmit. And we're scoping that project right now with IBM using Watson tools. It's a very exciting project. We're trying to use that information to shape that last bit of our journey as we get information electronic, because we are risking flooding our clinicians with too much information that's electronic that they'll never be able to use. And it won't be viable for them at the point of care. And so big data is huge for us to be able to allow us to serve our patients better. Thanks for having me today.
Well, now the floor is open for anyone who wants to pose a question or try to start a collaboration right now. I mean, you have the right people here to do all those things that you want to do.
We don't have any mummies, I'm sorry. Well, maybe.
Salima. Salima, just wait a second until we get you the micro there.
How can we get access to some of the City of London data? So I work for the Institute for Clinical Evaluative Sciences. We have about 20 years of healthcare data. And for example, we're looking at a study where we want to look at the risks of fractures and falls that are occurring because of these extreme weather, so these crazy winters that we're having now. But parts of that is also are affected by policies in the city, so snow cleaning policies. Where can we get that data in order to know the variability and know the effects of falls, not just from a healthcare perspective, but also from an environment perspective?
Thank you very much for the question. The first thing I'd like to say is that the City of London does have an open data program, and there's about 60 different data sets there. And this is, of course, supporting in the interest of transparency and engagement of our citizens. Now, that being said, to my knowledge, the information that you're looking for would not be one of those data sets. That's quite a specific request. What I could say is that after this, I will hand you my card, and I can better determine exactly what your question is, and I can do my best to link you to the people that will have the best data possible. I will warn you that the City of London is a municipality, and there hasn't been a great deal of resources put into data quality. So potentially, if we do have the opportunity to exchange some data, it might not be beautiful, so to speak.
Fair, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a job for one of the programmers. Okay. Any programmers in the audience? There we go.
So this would be a question to Matt, Dominic, and this would be a question specifically to Matt, Dominic, and I guess Glen. So, does your organization run into data silos, and have you encountered this? And the next question then is, what thoughts do you have in overcoming these?
Thank you very much for the question, Dr. Bauer. Working in a municipality, there is always a level of silo issue to be overcome. So I would say that there is, without question, issues of silos and data silos in municipalities. Some steps that we've taken at the City of London is a couple of years ago we moved into having our budget service-based as opposed to departmental-based. So we do service-based budgeting and we do service-based business plans, which I believe is one step towards breaking down those silos. I would also say that, and this is the world over, personal relationships and individual connections are some of the most powerful things to break down those silos. So from an institutional perspective, there are the structures around budgeting and business planning, and from the personal perspective, there are those elements as well. Thank you.
I have been with IBM for 25 years, and how to break it down is a journey of all 25 years. And it's improving over time. I think the answer is that every set of data resides in a silo when I joined IBM. And right now I feel a lot more comfortable working through all this data in the business process because of continuous effort. So I don't think people have 25 years to follow our model, but I just want to share with you my experience.
Sure. So lots of silos, Mike, as you and I have had the conversation for sure. I think our biggest silo, to be honest with you, is the barrier between people doing clinical research and people providing clinical care. And that's where we've probably got the greatest opportunity to figure out how to break down the silos there. Part of the challenge is that on the clinical side, the data is linked to our workflow and the processes that enable care, and on the research side, they are different. There's different avenues and different rationale for using the data. So we're in the process of working through that. I think one opportunity that we've got is something called Connect Southwestern Ontario. It's a large project that's providing a portal environment for people to view clinical information about patients across basically the entire continuum from Hamilton to Windsor, from St. Thomas to Owen Sound. And that'll be a starting point for us, that we've never had sort of that kind of opportunity to do that in the past.
I'd like to talk about that as well. So one of the things that we're doing at Ryerson is we're trying to break down the academic silos. Within the digital media zone, we've started the new Masters in Digital Media, and that particular program is actually housed under the Dean of Graduate Studies as opposed to a particular school. And what we're doing is we're attacking business, technical, and creative at the same time, so all three aspects of the digital media process. We have faculty from the Ted Rogers School of Management. We have faculty from Fashion, Communication, Art, and Design. We have engineers. We have computer programmers. We have people from the social sciences and the arts side of things. And basically what we're trying to do is create a new culture or ecosystem in which people are understanding that we need to create a team. When developing new ideas, innovating, being entrepreneurial, the team is not just yourself coming up with that idea, it's yourself and 5 or 6 other people that have varying different concepts and opinions. And we have to not only respect those opinions, but be able to take the information, say from an agricultural student, and then from an engineer who may be using Arduino sets. And can we create something in which the agricultural student will be able to have its crops, his or her crops, communicate via Twitter. So these are the types of things that we're trying to accomplish now at Ryerson to break down those silos, to get everybody talking the same language.
So I want to go follow up on your discussion of the integration of the data that you are making available, the clinical data for researchers and all the way back. How have you been able to do that? Has there been a process for privacy impact assessment? Going back to Jacqueline's presentation before, I think it's hugely important to know how we assign resources to the healthcare system and what is the most viable allocation of resources for having the appropriate impact for the community. So these types of studies are hugely important, and yet there are issues of privacy. How have you been dealing with that here?
So I wasn't here for the earlier part of the presentation, but privacy in and of itself has been a barrier to some of the integration in the past. I think where we've got an opportunity is if we could actually include patients and families to give them visualization to what's happening to their own information, then I think actually that would give them a level of empowerment that they don't have today, to know that they could stay in a study for a certain point, they could control where some of their information goes. We don't have any of that opportunity for patients or families right now. So for me, that's one aspect of, as we look forward, we need to think about. The other aspect is that some of the research groups, to be honest with you, have been more advanced than the clinical setting in terms of putting structures in place, putting systems in place, and we need to get caught up with them. We need to be able to offer them a better system and solution so that instead of their research systems driving the clinical side, we could actually have our clinical systems looking after the clinical side for them, and then their research environment would be able to be scaled and scoped to the appropriate size. So I think that's another big opportunity that we have going forward. To be honest with you, our privacy rules and regulations are fairly extensive, and we've got external oversight to those, and so I think I don't think we're going to run into those issues if we use those guidelines for us. Absolutely, yes, there is. Yeah.
Hold on, please. Well, maybe can I give a couple of examples if there are any of startups working on the big data environment right now? Paul, if you are working on something here?
Not right now. From a startup perspective, there was the one we actually did with Mike at Feeding, which was way back, because I was using a lot of macro data, and the data sets, quite frankly, weren't mature enough for the technology that was utilizing it at the time. It's funny, if we started that application today, it might be a whole different world, but there hasn't been those kind of opportunities. What we hope is forums like this will germinate those types of ideas, and the nice thing now is we have an infrastructure in place to support people with those ideas and try to figure out how to, start with the idea. There's going to be enough barriers put up between regulatory, social, money, management, all those other standards, stuff that get in the way of great ideas, but there's now at least a nucleus within the university and within the community designed to help drive those opportunities further. They have it in Ryerson, they have it in Waterloo, and then we have it here at Western. So don't be afraid to put your hand up. The faculty know the direction, or you can contact us directly, and we'll start to work through those opportunities and see if there's a way for us to help manifest the idea into something real. The big job we have is monetization. Our job is ultimately not just to move the idea to market, but to monetize it, because the best way of getting it into the marketplace is to create a revenue stream or an opportunity for a business. So those opportunities exist, and I think that's the intent here. But we don't see a lot of it. We see a lot of micro stuff. We don't see a lot of macro right now. That's where the opportunities may be.
Yeah, so a typical environment within Communitech, and I guess inspired by our origin, which is inspired by industry, would be to encourage anybody in the startup mode, and whether that's right out of the womb or in the early stages of having some technology and thinking about markets. Our first thrust is to try to help partner them with an industry-facing player, which is where the money is. So it's to identify what the actual market points of pain are, or the points of opportunity, and then work backwards. So to use the most easy example on the satellite environment that we were working on, Comdev, which is a company in Cambridge, they're world leader in making satellite componentry, and that's an idiosyncratic business. Is quite lumpy in revenue streams, and they wanted to get to a more steady state revenue stream. They thought data services was the way to go, but they just wanted to be a provider of raw data. They did not want to become part of the value-added ecosystem. So their challenge, which is why they came to us, is we need to create an ecosystem, an environment where others would want to take raw data and figure out how to augment it with other data, fuse the data, interpret the data, and find vertical markets. From that idea came one of the port authorities in the world, actually in Brazil, that have got a serious logistics problem on managing shipping through in and out of the port. And a typical boat, you schedule your time to come to a port, and then if you're late, you have to go to the back of the bus, and if you're early, you wait. And $1 million a day of cost in that boat, that's pretty expensive stuff. So if you can use analytics through signal capture to do more predictive capabilities based on fusing weather patterns, tidal patterns, and other data sets to determine and predict when that boat is going to arrive at the port authority, or in Rotterdam, or even in Vancouver or Montreal, you could optimize that. And there's money in that. There's money in that for intermodal carriers, because there's a truck waiting at that port to carry it to a train somewhere. And when you go into that value chain, all kinds of money benefits start to flow. And And the successes we've had, which is why we've seen success that is typically about 2 times the success rate of other incubators and innovating areas, is that we have a focus on saying, where's the pain? How do we introduce you? So what Adam said earlier today, they are dealing with the biggest around the world, and all those companies have got big points of pain, and they actually don't know how to innovate internally. The bigger the company, IBM would say this, the harder it is to innovate. And so this issue of collaborating on the inside, and ultimately when it innovates to a point where maybe a big entity wants to buy out the small entity. We just had Google buy out one of our entities a couple of years ago. They could never have innovated on the inside, but once the idea matured, they acquired it. So our view is that you look for the market opportunity, you work back from industry, you come to an environment, wherever the environment is, that's got the training, the tools, the environment that helps you collaborate and ideate, and then take it to market. And our view is that fail fast, fail early, fail cheap, and pivot where you need to until you get the success. It's the antithesis of anthropology or archaeology, but it comes to the same end state.
I have a question for Geoff. I was really interested to hear about the open data center that you guys are starting. I'm just curious, first of all, if there's spatial data involved in that, or is it purely municipal, other survey type things, or what kind of data, or have you even got to that point yet?
Well, the demand and supply challenge that's facing Canada, but globally, there's been some declarations of intent that governments want to become more open, and that's what Matt was alluding to. So that's international pressure to make themselves more transparent and open. The challenge that any level of government have got is, what does that mean? Culturally, they've been born out of privacy for all the right reasons, so they don't have a market-facing attitude towards data. So one is that there's a supply opportunity, but no one really knows how to commercialize that. And then there's a demand issue where the frustrations and irritations of businesses, whether it be in healthcare or environmental services or whatever it might be, in innovation, could be transit time, to try to figure out where is that data, how to get access to that data without using just relationships. That's where the point of pain is. What the federal government has recognized is that if they want to solve for that problem, to help supply meet demand, there needs to be an environment that's created that is agnostic of data, is agnostic of markets, is agnostic of politics, but can be, it sounds like utopian, but because we're not going to be driving for revenue, we're going to be driving for an environment that says, if you do want to know about where is there a data set on weather or wind or leaves or snow being removed or buses, whatever it might be, where can you go to a single portal that is just going to point to other data sets and then liberate it, and ideally over time standardize access. And I'd say the goal here is to make it, the hard work should be in innovation or invention. It shouldn't be in trying to sleuth out where the data set is or how to interpret it.
Then a follow-up to that is, how do you then try to standardize data? So if you're interested in, for instance, we do a lot of GIS work looking at spatial clustering of things like motor accidents, motor vehicle collisions. If we want to access that across the province, how do you then figure out ways to standardize it so that might be a bad example because the police across the province do things similarly, but how you can make sure that each one's doing it similarly so then you can have multi-locational analysis.
Yeah, it's one of the next big challenges that we know we're going to face, and our perspective is that it's going to be based on commercial opportunity that's going to drive it. So when a government can realize it can save 5%, any level of government can save 5% of its budget through using crowdfunding ideas or crowdsourcing ideas to innovate using public data, which is what they've discovered in England, you can do a heck of a lot more by identifying traffic incidents or accidents by using locals than you can using police authority, and that's driven down their cost of policing. If they can see that and they can want to reinvest that in making the data more accessible, then it's going to start to create a fund, and that fund is going to start to work towards standards. There's going to be innovators that are going to come along and say, I got a way that I can create an overlaid standard. It'll probably be an IBM or somebody that's going to figure out how to aggregate this data in a way that is more accessible. So what we need is an environment that helps people, those computer scientists or the next generation of engineering designer, that says, I know how to solve for this discrete problem because I now know how I can monetize it. Today, it's just an academic exercise. So it's a question of who goes first, and Canada is not first, but it wants to be amongst the leaders. And as we said earlier, Germany is high up there, UK is high up there, even the US is high up there.
We have one more question. You have a question there? And this has to be the last one because we have to move into the next talk. But we'll have some time to talk with them out of the panel.
Just a question. We've discussed that entrepreneurs, students, faculty, anybody with an idea, a new idea that he thinks it's investable, if I can say that. I'd say guidelines, 1 or 2 or 3 guidelines that, for me, ideas, for everybody, ideas are abundant. There are a lot. Everybody thinks their idea is the next big thing. And when you hear, with buzzwords, with new technologies, you don't know how big is this going to be 5 years from now. So any idea, some sort of filtering technique we can use to know, okay, this is going to work, this is not going to work. You mentioned that coupling the members with ideas with industry players, anything we can do before coming, or anything we can do when developing this idea to make sure, okay, this is really gonna be something. Thanks.
Michael or Geoff, lean method?
Geoff, you want to go?
Right. I mean, this is to be pretty simple about this. By and large, it's marketing 101. It's being market facing to identify that gap in the market or that point of pain in the market and work back from that. And when you're inventing, that's sometimes tough because the market doesn't know what it needs. And so the clever part of this in social sciences is to try to figure out what they don't know they don't need, or they don't know they need they don't need. One of those Monty Python-esque type of groups. But it has to be market facing, and then do that minimal viable product approach. Don't over-engineer. Take it to market. Expect it to fail. Expect to use those early learnings to improve it. And that's really tough for engineers as a body to think about experimentation. And when you're building a plane or a satellite, that's not good enough. Right? An O-ring is important. But when it comes to other things like continuous learning and continuous improvement, that's been our experience anyway.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't know how much among the audience know about SOSIP, SOSCIP. That's a Southern Ontario Smart Computing Innovation Platform. Thank you. This is, well, from the industry is IBM Labs. There is federal government, the Southern Ontario FedDAP funding, and then the Ontario government Center of Excellence. Everybody chip in money. The reason why I want to mention this particular program is related to the questions. We are a little bit more focused, and that's one of the approach where you can identify innovation, which is in this particular program, we are asking people to propose projects that will in general benefit a small and medium business in Southern Ontario. So there is a specific goal already set there that people need to think about. If you're proposing something, are you really benefiting to the economy here? So that's one way of looking into things, to put that as a matrix in measuring that. And then further to that, we are looking into if your solutions are related to improving the city's infrastructures, water, energy, and those type of health. Those we kind of put some parameter there to limit people's proposing that. So with that kind of approach, you can say there is a new SOSIF or some sort that would focus on other area, but with funding and evaluations mechanism backing that. That way we can kind of filter out a little bit easier as opposed to boiling the oceans by, well, we're accepting any proposals. So hopefully that helped.
Last word? Okay. Thank you. Actually, I want to echo what these guys are saying, but there's a couple of things. One is really basic lean startup methodology is a great place to start, or business canvas model. The other thing to really keep in mind is build for the pain point, don't build for yourself. Because as you guys all have great ideas, you're all percolating something, you think this is the best thing since sliced bread, you need to go out and find out whether or not it really is the best thing. And understanding where people's pain points are and then designing something around that pain point will get you faster to market.
Okay, we will have 2 minutes to go to the washroom or wherever before we have to let the last lecture by Ryerson. So thank you all for your participation.